This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Rashan Senanayake.
What's up, everyone? We're back here with another episode of Inspiring Design with myself, Rashan, and we've got a very special guest here today, Ben Donnelly. He's described as an industrial design prodigy. He's 24 years old, a QUT alumni sessional, and he has done guest lectures. But what's most impressive is the fact that he's worked on a number of different Hollywood feature films as a concept designer for some of the biggest movie stars, such as Thor Ragnarok with Chris Hemsworth, Aquaman with Jason Momoa, Godzilla that's coming out in a few years. And not only that, he's actually worked with Owen Patterson, one of the biggest production designers for movies like The Matrix, and Dan Henner from movies like The Lord of the Rings, King Kong. These are some incredible names, and we're so lucky to have Ben here with us, and thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you. Wow. What an
and I feel like you are literally one of the industrial design celebrities.
I wouldn't say that.
And I love the fact that you are very humble, mate. Can you start off by giving us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi everyone, my name's Ben. I'm an industrial designer. I studied at QUT from 2012 till 2016. Doing industrial design and architecture. And I guess I'll go back to maybe high school's a good one. Always artistic, loved drawing, photography. I had no idea what I wanted to do at university. And when it came around to, put in your disciplines of study, I put in architecture, and then industrial design. And I got my third one. I was actually quite disappointed until I got to university and found out what it was. And within a couple of days, we were drawing cars and lightsabers, and it was incredibly inspiring to come to QT and meet like-minded people. I guess I studied at a high school that had about 20 people in my entire grade. So it was... Was
that studying graphics back then?
Yeah, it was like I did graphics in high school, but it was just general school. So I was, it's like 17 or so. And yeah, it's kind of, you open your horizon when you come to university because you're meeting people like-minded, and you're kind of, actually seeing that, this could be a possible job sort of thing. So,
which high school did you go to, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I went to Mountain Bay Boys College.
Awesome.
Just local, so I live in Manly.
Yep.
And university was an incredible sort of eye-opening experience for me. Had a really good time. And it didn't feel like work. It was never, homework was sort of stuff I'd be doing anyway, like learning Photoshop and 3D modeling and stuff. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the people I met were incredibly inspiring. I pretty much just worked as hard as I could for 4 years straight. Luckily enough, I, in second year, started working in architecture at the Buchan Group, which are a kind of multidisciplinary firm in Brisbane that do interior design, architecture, graphics, all that sort of stuff. And that really taught me just about everything I know now. Studying whilst working in industry in architecture was a phenomenal way to really put into context what we were learning at university. And it just opened my eyes to people who knew way more than I did, who were really open with their information, could teach me everything they were doing. And it really set me up to eventually get to Marvel. So I guess I always wanted to work in film. I find films incredibly inspiring. I think they're a really cool way to, especially in terms of science fiction, to, I guess, predict the future or make a discussion about where we could be going, whether that be negative or positive. I think it's a really exciting thing, and I've always loved visualization. So drawing and rendering, it's a way to communicate ideas to people in a sort of a high-level approach that people get excited about what you're thinking. So I loved that, and I always thought, I'd love to work in film, but I don't know, studying in Brisbane, I was like, is that possible? I'll have to go overseas and maybe study entertainment design, and then potentially then I could work for another couple of years and get into film. And I somehow stumbled into working at Marvel on Thor Ragnarok. Pretty much, it was like 2016. I was still studying here, so I was juggling full-time work at a studio like that down the Gold Coast at Village Roadshow Studios. And I was studying architecture still, so it's a very tricky time. But funnily enough, it came through Screen Queensland on Facebook, who were just looking for a 3D artist, and I put my hand up.
Brilliant.
I knew most of the tools, and I'd luckily had enough experience to definitely have the skill they were looking for, but I'd also done a lot of personal projects and ideas that I'd had on Behance, essentially, and just sent my email through with that, and within about 3 days I was meeting with one of my idols, but some of the designers who worked on Lord of the Rings, and then I got to meet a whole bunch of artists at the studios who inspire me still to this day. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the, the process. There's obviously many late nights and many years of work in there, but since working on Thor, which I was on for about 7 months, I've worked on Aquaman and most recently Godzilla, and I still love it, which is a good thing. So
I can see why people would call you a design prodigy. Being 24, that's incredible, mate. And what was it like working with literally the best designers from an industrial design capacity?
Yeah, it was just incredibly inspiring. It's one of those things that I can't really believe it still. But at the same time, people are excited about the stars of the films. I see the designers as the stars of the film, so I'm always pretty. I can't believe when they walk by and they give me some advice. But at the same time, they're all just people just working, all genuine, really open with their ideas, and they've all been so encouraging with work.
Now, level with me here. Were you more starstruck by Dan Henner and Owen Patterson than Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, I was. I really was. I mean, again, I think filmmaking is such an incredible art form, and these are the people at the top of their sort of discipline. Creating these worlds that people really love, that can make people happy. That's at the end of the day what I think industrial design tries to do, improving lives. And I think films, same sort of thing, inspiring people.
Storytelling.
Yeah, even if it's like a 14-year-old, that's kind of the brief with Thor, was make it fun, and I think we did that. So yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible. And again, I just can't say enough how humble and open people are with their knowledge. They're incredibly supportive of me coming into an art department so young, not really knowing what I was doing, but just giving it a go. And I couldn't have done that without all the people who have helped me get to here in terms of my family and work as well. So it's sort of, on paper it's impressive, but it's it's just lots and lots of work.
Of course,
many hours. So.
That's incredible, and I'm actually very humbled to hear that. People at that top level still being able to be grounded and give back, and constantly
kind of at the lunch table having a sandwich next to someone that you have a book from them on your shelf at home. A lot of people into film collect these art books, and I have a whole wall full of them. So it's kind of crazy to be able to open it and see names of people you're sitting next to. But it's just reiterated how much anything is possible if you set your mind to it, sort of thing. And
that's it.
Even if you live in a city or a country that you didn't think made films, those opportunities are out there. If you kind of keep pushing at it, you get to meet the right people. And I had no idea we made films in Queensland, let alone these films. So
that's it.
It's pretty cool. I can work in a city that I love, still be with the people that I love, and have a really fun job. Challenging job, but a fun job.
That's incredible, mate. And one of the things that I want to outline for our listeners is, now I'm going to level with you. I actually did stalk you online before we came today, and I was ridiculously impressed with your Instagram.
Super kind.
I saw there were weapons features and different clothing items and things like that. So can you detail to us, in that set, working in films, what were the specific things you had to come up with?
Yeah, absolutely. So film it's really interesting on the inside. It's potentially not what you would think it was like at all, but it's really just the studios are sort of a bare warehouse. You all come in with your computers and all your stuff, and you're there just to work on that project. Once it's over, everyone kind of files out again and it's empty. I guess in film, I'm typically given a script. I get to go through that and work out the action points, what we need to design in terms of sets. On Thor, I was a prop illustrator, so I'd primarily be designing like chairs and cockpits for spaceships, which is kind of a funny thing saying to people that you like spaceships and designing them, and then you kind of get to design them. It's like shouting it out loud enough that it becomes true. From industrial design, you go through problem solving and sketching, model making,
Prototyping.
Yeah, prototyping and ergonomics, all this stuff that in film is actually really crucial for like camera work. How are they going to get the camera in there? What needs to move away? How's the actor going to sit in here? For spaceships, they're built on a gimbal that usually roll around, so they need to be structurally sound and sort of accommodate for all of these needs that you never think of when watching the shot in the film. And I can tell you, it's maybe could be up to 6 months of work for a shot that's 10 seconds.
Wow.
And I've had sets that have been kind of cut from the script at the last minute, and it's a lot of work, but you kind of get used to it. But yeah, I think in that environment, it's really about sharing ideas. Like, no one does anything alone. It's always working on the shoulders of others. And I mean, typically in film, all the pre-production and design is being done in LA, where they sort of build up the concept for the film as they're writing the script, and then they bring it over here for pre-production, where all of that design is sort of continued and things are being built in preparation for shooting, which is potentially like a 12-week period. And then we shoot for, potentially half a year or more. Like Aquaman was almost an entire year of shooting. So, yeah, it's a really long process, but I've never been in a more inspiring environment where people from different disciplines are all coming together to create one finished product. And there's just this amazing morale and like excitement every day. It's obviously very high pressure, like stressful. But at the same time, you're so proud seeing that stuff on camera at the end of the day, knowing all of the iterations and designs you went through, how the people around you sort of helped elevate your quality of work or, encourage you to do more and more. And yeah, I mean, I'm in the art department, but we work with set decoration, all the way to props manufacture, to construction teams, to the shooting crew, to the director. It's this massive pipeline that's always changing. It's pretty fluid on films.
Constant communication and collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. And with these, I guess, blockbuster sort of action films that are heavy in sci-fi, there's a lot of blue screen or green screen work, which means a lot of pre-visualization of shots, and then you're kind of getting a bit of that information from storyboards and making it a reality sort of thing. So I guess that's the fun of my job, is I'm right there at the end where I'm can be designing all the way through to 3D modeling for manufacture parts that are physically made and in the film, which is a really interesting skill set to have. Obviously, industrial design gave me that, but it is multidisciplinary in that, like, I'm doing rendering and animation to communicate design ideas, in particular using a lot of virtual reality to show directors their sets before we built them.
Is it because it's hard for them to visualize something?
I wouldn't say that it's hard. I think people in film, it's a very quick iterative process. We still make physical models and things, but a 2D drawing can also just be just as powerful. But I think VR lets you get in there and really work out all of the issues that a set might have, or it might just let you improve it. Which is crucial in that process. When you've got a short amount of time to design something, you want to make it as good as possible, so that on the day when they're filming, they get the camera kind of in the best sort of spot for the best outcome for the audience. It's a super duper long process, but virtual reality has been really interesting in that regard. But
Oh, that's incredible. So you almost have to go through the same thinking process that an everyday industrial designer would. But on top of that extra additional layers of the camera and the artistic approach and the film brief and on,
it's kind of like
more.
a bunch of kids in a sandpit and everyone's got ideas, and it's how do we make the coolest sandcastle? But it is. It's very interesting. It's probably not what you expect from the outside, and it's again lots of hours go into these things. I see a film now and it might not be good because of one element, but I certainly respect the hours that have gone into it on the other end, knowing what it's like to work on a film for...
Definitely.
We do 50-hour weeks, which is... Typically it goes beyond that, but it's a lot of time to be at your most optimal in terms of your sort of output and your thinking. And as you're saying about industrial design, it's crucial to have some of the skills that I've developed from QUT in particular, just about problem solving and just processes for design visualization, whether that be like photo scanning existing sets to create 3D models, to create visualizations of that. But then on the complete other end of the spectrum, I'm working with people who maybe have never studied. They've just picked up a piece of software and they know someone in film and they got good enough to get in, or they've watched online tutorials. And a couple friends I have who've now gone on to work on Avatar have never been to university. So it's at the same time you can just get into industry and start learning the stuff. Which is again just about making contacts, which is kind of interesting. I kind of fell into film without knowing anyone. I did get in with a portfolio, which I'm still quite proud of. But at the same time, it's, if you can get there and do the job on the day, they're happy,
Definitely. Now, you mentioned CAD and 3D modeling a number of times. What are the specific softwares that industrial designers need to know and have it under their belt as a skill set?
Like, we are in such an exciting time now for software. I think there are lots of options, and I've worked with artists and designers who use multiple, whether it be Modo or Maya, 3ds Max.
Yep.
ZBrush, I can just list off a whole ton.
That'll be perfect.
I use SketchUp because I'm really quick at it.
SketchUp.
It's very, very basic, but it can get ideas out in blocking. And it lets you sort of start early and iterate fast because changes are going to be coming in all the time. These sets they're physical things, as are the props, and they need to be built on a budget to achieve a particular task, in a pretty intensive timeline. So
do you actually design with Sketch while you're sketching, you model on SketchUp?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I am probably quick enough now to just work in 3D, but there's always drawings.
Yep.
And, sometimes I'm lucky enough to get a painting from LA to start with. So it's always one of those sort of back and forth things. It's never just one artist. But yeah, I think in terms of CAD, if you're an industrial designer, tools like Fusion 360, obviously SolidWorks are useful, but as I said, because it's a freelance sort of context, you are actually bringing in your own gear. And the night before I started at Marvel, I had to purchase all of my own software. I was a student, so you're kind of outlaying a lot for equipment and computers. I guess on Aquaman, I bought in my own VR headset, cameras and drones, everything you have in your sort of tool belt for solving problems.
Out of curiosity, what was the headset you ended up bringing?
I brought in an Oculus Rift.
Okay.
So that was the one that I had for real-time visualization of
Perfect.
In particular, the cockpit for Manta's sub.
Yeah.
So we got to walk around that set in VR and make sure it was exactly as the director wanted it.
That's great.
But yeah, like software, it can be whatever you're proficient at. As I said, SketchUp's acceptable for design, and if you can document from it for manufacture, depending on the process, that's acceptable. Again, there's tools like Rhino, which is probably the most popular tool in film. So if you're doing set design or props, it's a solids modeling tool that can do incredible documentation, relatively complex surface modeling. Everyone uses it, it's affordable. But there's even things like Blender coming out now that are really powerful and free. Like Blender has the EV renderer or even Cycles, which with the right equipment and knowledge can get you as good a results as Keyshot in a way. So I think it's quite inspiring that the sort of level to grab a piece of software and start using it is getting lower. Anyone can start playing with these things and learning it.
Yep.
There's a whole ton of resources online through like Learn Squared, Gumroad or YouTube, for example. Lots of people being really open with their processes so that everyone can start designing and thinking and sharing ideas. So
correct.
That to me is like, I can't wait to see what people are doing in the next 10 or so years, considering that
Definitely.
I've been 3D modeling for 15 years, which is a really long time. I started quite young. I think I was in probably grade 8 or 7 or something. And, now I think students in school are learning all these tools, which when I went through school, we barely had access to them. So it's kind of quite exciting. And at the same time, digital manufacture more than ever is being used in film. So there was a set recently on Godzilla that we CNC'd out of foam entirely. This is a 25 meter sort of set piece, which it's a lot of foam, it's a lot of tooling, but at the same time, you could never achieve that with sculpts, in the timeline prior.
Yeah.
Obviously, we still have sculptors going over it to perfect it and paint it and prep it, but it's really interesting to see this sort of process where CNC, laser cutting, and 3D printing are all becoming the kind of norm. And we're allowed to sort of pump out designs that are way more sort of expansive and exciting than maybe you could have done 10 or 15 years ago for the same price. And in the art department, we have 3D printers running all day. We still have a model maker cutting foam core and paper. It's all essentially a lot of fun. Pretty much a lot of big kids playing with the tools they've loved since they're a kid. Everyone's there for that reason, essentially. So
now a lot of our listeners are teachers in secondary level, and there is a big push at the moment with the technology coming into classrooms, like you mentioned, with more softwares and 3D printers and CNC routers, and teachers are in that transition process of upskilling and learning VR and so on as well. One of the main softwares that teachers seem to love and is Autodesk Inventor.
Yeah.
Is Inventor being used in the industry at the moment?
Not with people that I've worked with, but it's perfectly acceptable. It's a solids modeler with a stack. You can produce models from it. As I said, if you're incredibly fast in Inventor and you have a portfolio that can show that demonstrated skill, you can work in film. Nothing's going to hinder your ability to work in that regard. It's pretty open. You just have to be considerate of a pipeline where a designer before you might have done a really rough previous model, and then you're doing a model for manufacture, and then maybe visual effects need that model for a shot that might be done by ILM in another year or so.
Sorry, what's ILM?
Industrial Light and Magic. They're a
there you go.
visual effects house they essentially started with Star Wars.
Right.
So they've done everything from creature effects to environment shots. They're kind of cutting edge.
This is so exciting, seriously.
Much like Weta Workshop. Yeah, no, I think, and the other thing is, through being interested in this stuff, I'm just a complete geek. Like we'll go and see every film from Pixar to Disney to whatever, because they're always pushing their technology, and it's fascinating to see, and it's inspiring. You want to go away and draw all night sort of thing. It's just incredible, and we are so lucky with our access to technology and ideas and people. I mean, Instagram is by far the most incredible platform at the moment. To be able to meet and just talk to people that are potentially, your idols.
Yep.
Really exciting. And just to, be able to share in what is a really positive art community at the moment in design and illustration, even in industrial design. And I constantly tell students to, look at Instagram and try and find people that are doing work that you really want to do.
Learn from the best.
And learn from them, and get inspired by them, and always have these sort of people in your life that you're looking up to that can guide you or, just open your horizons. I think there's a typical thing where, in any setting, you're going to be looking around the classroom at the students that you're with, but what about those, the same year in another country, or even people who are well above you, just to sort of see where you could go. It's quite inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's beautifully said, man. And just to clarify, so if the listeners, the students or teachers need to have 3 top softwares that they need to learn in high school, what would you recommend?
My gosh, I would. It's really
5. Let's make it easier. Let's make it top 5.
I mean, it just depends what you want to do. I think, Photoshop is critical. For everything. That's industry standard, and that's the top of my list, I think. Again, SketchUp used to be free. It's not anymore.
Sadly.
It's still very fun and quick, but potentially Blender might be a better tool for you if you're getting into 3D. With the right sort of plugins and tools, it can be incredibly powerful. And again, it's open source. There have been animated films made with it now. Designers working with it in industry, on the latest films. It's kind of amazing that a piece of technology that can sort of match or become better than another piece of software that might cost $5,000, is free. It's just incredible. So I guess I'm putting Blender up quite high.
Yep.
And I guess in my mind, Rhino is still very, very solid as a tool. There's so many. I mean, ZBrush is another fantastic tool. ZBrush, yeah.
Yep.
So for sculpting, whether it be hard surface or creatures, that's also another industry standard. I mean, that could be the top
there you go. So Photoshop, SketchUp, Rhino, ZBrush, and what was the last one? What do you think you would add?
One thing, I guess, it's always good to know a vector software. So probably Adobe Illustrator is another critical one for any sort of manufacturing or graphics or effects you want to do. And probably going into effects, because I meant that for motion graphics, After Effects is another really exciting tool.
Of course.
With a lot of free tutorials out there that can just really, people on YouTube now making these videos with incredible effects in them. Like, how exciting is that? A technology that maybe 30 years ago can only be done on the biggest render file by the absolute experts in that industry. Can now be done by anyone who has half an hour to learn something,
That's it. Now, I noticed that in that list, you didn't have any Fusion 360 or Inventor.
It's just because I forgot about them. No, so Fusion 360 is really cool, and I mean, I'm saying that because I see a lot of the artists that I follow and keep in touch with using it. Again, it's really any tool that can get you to your end goal quicker. You can use anything that you like as long as it's empowering you to be creative.
Yeah, and not limited.
Exactly, and not limited, and that's absolutely it. Bottom of the line. And you can't let anyone tell you that you can't use a particular software if it can achieve the bare minimum of producing a model for manufacture, or for rendering, or for documentation. So yeah, it's really quite open. And I guess it's overwhelming too because there are so many options out there. So it is just about trying different things. And luckily, as a student, you can download 3ds Max and play with it.
I think that's a common factor between all design disciplines. The number of software packages that we need to know.
There are lots.
More than double figures.
Yeah, it is. I can email you a list after this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I think the more that you are just inquisitive and you ask questions about the things you see, the more you can start to work out, this was done with Marvelous Designer to create cloth and fabric simulation, and this was definitely Maya over here, you can start to detect tools or at least find tools that can replicate the same thing that you might want to do yourself. So it is also just about finding something that you love and doing it a lot.
Definitely.
That's the way that I've, I guess, been so proactive and prolific with making things, is just having a subject matter that inspires me, or knowing that this is for someone at the end of the day, when you're at the studios late at night and you're working really hard on something, it is worth it in the end,
Definitely.
I think, even going and seeing Thor in a cinema and having people around you laugh and enjoy, the particular scenes where maybe your stuff was, is just a really odd experience, but really
rewarding.
Yeah, it's rewarding. It's incredibly inspiring too to just see that you're having an impact on people. And I think as a designer, that's all you could ever ask for, is to try and make a positive impact in any way. Whether it's a product that improves someone's life, or an idea through a film that might open someone's horizon, or just make someone happy during the day. That's sort of a pretty basic thing to ask for, but I think it's pretty important in this day and age.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now I want to take the conversation a little bit away from movies.
Yes.
And because there are a lot of aspiring designers that are considering industrial as one pathway.
Yes.
In your experience and based on the knowledge that you have, what's the process of becoming an industrial designer, certification and so on? Yeah,
understood. So I guess film is very open, as I mentioned. You can get in through a portfolio demonstrating a skill. You might not need a university degree to do it. Whereas like industrial design, I think typically a degree is helpful in giving you the real fundamentals.
So there's no actual registration requirement?
Not that I understand, but it's a tricky discipline, and it's something that will require a lot of understanding that and discipline. Something that studying at a university can give you. It can give you like-minded people, give you a discipline and a schedule to work to and to deliver things, and it can sort of force you to make projects and to learn.
Build your portfolio.
Yeah, build your portfolio, iterate quickly. I think that university is the best test bed for learning things, just if you make a mistake here, it's fine, you might just get a lower mark, or you might learn something really exciting. And in industry, whereas that would cost lots of money, here is a wonderful place to just be questioning everything, learning as much as possible, and trying to do your absolute best. And I say to students, treat every project you do as if it will go in your portfolio. Be really proud of your work, and you can obviously update that every couple of years. But to get into industrial design, it's much the same as working on university projects to a high standard, working on your own projects to show that you're really proactive and excited on subject matter that you care about, because people will hire you to do things, based on personal projects. It's how a lot of people I know have gotten into particular disciplines. And working as an industrial designer now, there's so many options. I think really design thinking and systems and service design, you can go into many fields, which is really good. And the skill sets an industrial designer has, which could be from anything from photography to graphic design or rendering or 3D modeling, they can be applied to other disciplines. So I know a lot of industrial designers that work in architecture doing graphics and wayfinding experience design, which is also a lot of fun. And yeah, just to problem solving like systems and services, that sort of work. But there's essentially in-house design where you're working in a company that's manufacturing a product, or you're doing consultancy where you're actually working at a firm where people will come in with their ideas and you're actually sort of working on multiple projects throughout your week, which is really exciting. Or you could do the startup approach where with the skills you learn at university, you can get a product idea out there on Kickstarter and get it funded. It's really exciting nowadays who has control of that. You're empowered as the designer.
It's almost endless options.
It is, yeah. Like you're empowered to empower others. Like there's so many problems out there that need solving. And I get to work with a lot of the designers that are coming through university who will get there and hopefully solve those problems. So, obviously being conscious of sustainability, and user-centric design is very basic but very crucial to being a designer. And I think, there are a lot of ways to do it. I think in terms of Brisbane and being employed, you can work in different disciplines, but it's an extremely competitive thing to work in. But at the same time, that should just motivate you to,
do better.
Well, to do better, but also just to, really add a lot of skills to your tool belt so that you are dynamic, you're diverse. One thing I probably haven't mentioned is working in film. They come and they go. There might be a film here for 9 months, and then nothing for a whole year.
Wow.
And are you going to choose to be unemployed, or will you start doing freelance design work, or pushing yourself and learning things so you can become more employable in different ways? And I think it's a pretty tricky lifestyle because you're moving around the place. Film designers are kind of like a traveling circus of people who go, in at least the Australia sort of Asia Pacific region, go through Australia, like Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and then Wellington and Auckland, New Zealand, sort of that circuit, which surprisingly enough, a lot of remarkable films are being made around there. But, they have to, within a couple of days, drop everything and move. And every time I get a call for a job, it's essentially like that. Maybe it's a Thursday evening and they say, we need you to start Monday. So
wow.
Whatever it is you're doing, you have to just accept yes and pack up your computer and get ready to move down the coast, or if you've got a partner or family you're living with, you have to be really open to having that change, and hopefully people will understand that it's your passion and you can do it. And I've been very lucky in having lots of people around me that support me and do that, so I've had no struggle at all. And I'm only an hour away down the coast, so it's not as hard as moving cross country or to a different country, but it is an interesting portion of the field. And at the same time, if you are good enough and you have the right contacts, you can work from anywhere in the world, which is another trend I see in film design and even games, is people working on, for example, Star Wars, and they're working in Melbourne just from home with their family. They're able to, through the internet, completely integrate into that design pipeline and work with others. That's pretty incredible. You can choose a city you like.
That's amazing.
And work from there, so.
Yeah. And I find there's a big contrast between that very linear process of get the degree, go to uni, get your registration in architecture, compared to, it's almost like your imagination is the limit.
It is, yeah. It absolutely true. And I think it's amazing that you can sort of conceive where you want to go. You can think, I really want to do this, and just through working at it, you'll get there like 100%. It sounds like an inspirational cat poster, but it's true. And again, if anyone listening wants to message me on Instagram or ask any questions, I'm always happy to talk to you. I would love to hear from you in terms of what you want to do as a designer, where you want to go, any of that sort of stuff. I love talking about design, and I think, we're in a really awesome opportunity here to make a positive difference in the world. So I think, wherever that's done from, it's quite inspiring.
That's good to know, because even coming and speaking to you before that, my preconceived knowledge of becoming an industrial designer was you go to uni and then you almost go and work for and design products that we use every day.
Yeah.
That's very different from that.
Well, it might not be. I mean, I've had a very odd experience, and it's something that you couldn't maybe replicate. I've been particularly very lucky, but also very prepared. I've done many years of work in architecture before getting into a bit of consultancy and then into film. So I've I've luckily, found my own path sort of thing, but there are many ways of doing it. And I think like university, it is a really good place to meet people. I wouldn't be where I am now without, the tutors that I've had to inspire me in drawing and in design thinking, one of which who kind of got me into architecture by accident. They kind of accidentally hired me, and then I started working, and they were like, oh, he's pretty good. So, I was meant to do an internship, stayed there for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. And yeah, I think that, again, it's just the people that you meet that really change your life and really benefit you. And that's the thing that I definitely love the most about university.
Yeah,
I think at a base level, you can do the course and you can get good grades, but, you have to be pushing yourself outside of here. And hopefully surround yourself with people that feel the same and want to do the same, who really want to go overseas and, work for the best design firms in the world, or like IDEO, what do you want to do and how can you get there? You just talk to lots of people, and there are people here who know how to do that stuff, But at the same time, that this information could be found online or just following the right person. I still can't believe that I've had conversations with designers I've, been a fan of for many years, just through Instagram, like a genuine discussion. It's just doesn't make any sense to me. It's crazy. But at the same time, it's like, wow, yeah.
It does humble you and it does ground you as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just everyone's, wanting to share their ideas and like, industrial design, I'm probably at the concept design end of it where it's very, art driven, but it is about the ideas, and they're high level concept ideas that maybe you don't have as much sort of like interaction with everyday things, but they're a really fun thing to be a part of a community that shares them, whether it be like a future vision about going to Mars, but like having feedback from people that I really look up to on that stuff is just so inspiring. It's incredible.
Definitely. Now, you've already mentioned human-centric design, human-centered design, design thinking multiple times.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, on how that fits into industrial design?
Yeah, it is the core to industrial design. I think, again, we're in this interesting time where industrial design is sort of not the answer anymore in terms of you don't want to be mass manufacturing a product unless it's for the right sort of solution. But it is more about like systems and services and bespoke solutions to problems that are contextual, and that all comes down to problem solving and understanding humans and their needs, not the assumptions of their needs. And, I haven't done a whole lot of work in proper industrial design and that sort of research, but I definitely know and work with a lot of people who have.
Yeah.
And you can see that, whether it be writing a research paper that influences designers working, in different industries, or if it's just getting in there and doing that work yourself. I think fundamental design thinking it's really just connecting the dots of different disciplines to create innovation. And when that can be done to a high level, you're sort of creating a value proposition for people. You're making a product that wasn't there prior, and it's now enabling someone to do something they never could. If that's in medical, that's like changing someone's life, which is just absolutely incredible. And I think, I chose architecture and industrial design because I see them as the disciplines that most impact this world in terms of whether it be built environment and sustainability. If you look around you, there are chairs and cars and all sorts of things that are manufacturing. How can you sustainably think about a life product and a system that can, make a sort of a less of an impact in the future in terms of environmental waste? How can you use like resources and like waste streams to create products that can help people? It's an endless thing, and you get overwhelmed when you start to understand some of the problems we see around us. If I can make a difference, that's sort of the feeling you get studying here is that you're an innovation maker and you're trying to solve problems, which can be just the most fun you've ever had kind of thing.
Your passion definitely comes through. This is why I think it's translated into doing some amazing work.
Yeah.
One of the last things that I wanted to understand and get your opinion on was, how do you see this big shift in technology with AR, VR, artificial intelligence, everything coming into play? What's it going to do to that industrial design discipline in the next 5 to 10, 20 years? Yeah,
it is. It's exciting. I think, again, I'm very hopeful and positive about it. Virtual reality and augmented reality. I think augmented reality is going to be the game changer when it hits properly in terms of something people are comfortable with seeing that's overlaid on their vision, integrated into environments. It's already being used in design and those disciplines, but I think in terms of turnaround and iteration and design thinking, like virtual reality and augmented reality are just phenomenal tools for visualizing things before they are built, or just communicating ideas to audiences. It is that really powerful tool that we have as designers to express ourselves and express the ideas of clients to the world who, can be positively influenced by these ideas. And VR is just the absolute latest and greatest, but it does tell you a lot about what you're doing, and it makes you check yourself and make sure that the design you're doing is as good as possible, whether it be a set in a film. I've walked around with James Wan on Aquaman around some of the submarine sets we made, and we're getting real-time feedback because he can see exactly what way we've designed. And it's not interpreting a page. You're actually you're in the space, you feel that it's quite low, and it's getting the mood for the camera work, and that's really incredible. And I think in industrial design even more so, you're understanding parts and their assemblies, the physical scale of products, or even interactions and things. So that's really cool. Artificial intelligence is also another one that's just mind-blowing in every aspect of the design process, whether it be in creating mood boards and inspiration using search terms, or if it is in 3D modeling and generative design, where you're creating these sort of AI-influenced models to be the best solutions to a problem. They're really, really exciting to draw. And there's recently been some amazing algorithms released where you can essentially outline an idea for a composition, and it will fill in with all sorts of landscapes and environments to have your idea done. I think it's going to elevate us. We're already essentially walking machines. We've got phones in our pockets with all the answers to everything you could ever want to ask. So if anything, I think in design it will just improve. It's just a skill in our tool belt, but it will improve our ability to create better solutions, and I think to make better impact with the audiences that need to see those solutions to make them happen. Whether that be lawmaking, or investors, commercial sector. It is really exciting. I think there's so many uses for it. I think automation is another interesting one, but are designers needed to do design in the future? Will it all be automated? I don't know yet, but I think for the moment I can imagine it'll really speed up our process and just let us come up with ideas we never could have previously conceived without it, which is kind of exciting. So it's all going to be positive.
Oh, definitely.
Nothing to worry about. It's all good.
I think it just, along with those technology changes being added, it will deepen and lengthen that training time and the skill set development time.
Exactly, yeah.
But I don't think actually as a designer that creative thinking will never be replaced. We always need that human element.
Absolutely,
and I think, like you said, it'll speed up that process of output and the quality, and the realism.
I'd call it more like an assistant, having that machine learning process to improve your even use of a software program could be really, really fundamentally game-changing during your day, as you're working. So there's so many applications for it. It's too early to say what it will do, but from what I've seen, it's pretty amazing and very exciting. VR and AR are also just top of the line.
Perfect. I'm just a bit mindful of time, so before we leave for today, I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask if you have any one or two sentences as a final bit of advice for aspiring designers or teachers or students or anyone who's listening about industrial design.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are the designers of the future. No pressure, but we really need you. We do need these creative solutions to complex, multifaceted problems. And whether you make that impact through storytelling in film or through product design, I think you have a really incredible opportunity to make a positive influence in the world. So all I would say is give it your best and don't limit yourself. In terms of distance from studying to industry, it's not as scary as you think. Just email people, call them. Typically they'll be like, oh yeah, we haven't heard from anyone. we actually need help right now, come in. It's not as scary as it seems. And I think the sooner you start dropping into that mindset, the sooner you'll hit the ground running, you'll learn what you really like to do, and you can start moving into sectors that, you're making the best impact you can. So, yeah, have fun, enjoy it. Make sure you're smiling every day,
Perfect, mate. Wise words, and thank you so much for your time, Ben.
No worries. Thanks so much.
I've definitely learned a lot myself, and I'm sure the listeners will get a lot out of today's episode.
Awesome. I hope so.
Thank you so much.